Let's go through a ranked choice voting election, part 1 of 3, the voters and the candidates. There are 7 candidates in this race: Ava, Bianca, Cedric, Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina. For simplicity's sake, we'll limit this to 20 voters and just use the letters A through G to represent the candidates. Also, I don't have room on the paper for much more than that. It's the first time your community is using ranked choice voting. It's been a wild campaign season and everyone is putting in the extra time to get well informed so they can take full advantage of all 5 available ranks on their ballots, which is tied for the most number of ranks available on any ranked choice voting ballot in the country. Here's your ballot. You really like Gina and Deegan, even though they're not the most popular candidates, but you know that lower ranks can't hurt them, so you rank them first and second. After that, you think Ava is alright and Bianca is close behind. You don't love Eli, but Eli is better than Fabio, and Cedric is really polarizing. You don't like Cedric or his annoying supporters at all. Here are the other 19 ballots. Let's go through them so you can get a better feel for all the candidates. The first block of voters really likes Ava, but Bianca is a close second. Bianca has run a really inclusive campaign, so most voters seem to like her. After that, Ava voters disagree about Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, but they all dislike Cedric, who's been attacking Ava the entire campaign. The next block of voters think Bianca is the bee's knees. Bianca has brought creative solutions to the conversation that everyone can get on board with. She's even managed to escape attacks by befriending other candidates, including even Cedric. Even though Bianca voters disagree about Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, they don't like how aggressive Cedric has been. And Ava lost the support of Bianca voters when Ava aired attack ads in the final few weeks of the campaign. Cedric voters love Cedric and everything he has to say, including all those nasty things about Ava. For Cedric voters, Bianca is the only other candidate who hasn't degraded them, so Cedric voters rank her next. They have mixed feelings about the rest, but they all agree that Ava should be left off their ballots. One Cedric voter likes Cedric just as much as the rest, but they met Deegan once and think that they are super cool, so they moved Deegan up to first on their ballot. It turns out Eli is more popular than people realize and has gained a decent following. Eli voters stick together on their top pick, but deviate from each other after that. And then there's our last Cedric voter, with a familiar story. They know Fabio personally, so this voter moved him up to first place. Check out part 2 to go through the instant runoff rounds and see who won. Let's go through a ranked choice voting election, part 2 of 3, the instant runoff. We've already met the candidates and the voters, so let's use their ballots to tabulate the winner. For any given instant runoff round, we'll use green circles to denote the candidate currently getting voted for on each ballot. When a candidate is eliminated, we'll X out that candidate in pink marker on every ballot that ranks them. In round 1, we see that Ava has 4 votes, Bianca has 5 votes, Cedric has 4, Deegan has 1, Eli has 4, Fabio has 1, and Gina has 1. Bianca is in the lead, but it's a close 4-way race. Deegan, Fabio, and Gina are all tied for last, but even if all their votes transferred to just one of them, they would still be eliminated. This means we can eliminate Deegan, Fabio, and Gina all at once. So let's do that. Here's Deegan, gone, now Fabio, and then Gina. Oh, and I missed one Deegan. Alright, now since you ranked Gina first, it's time to transfer your vote to your second pick. Wait a minute, your second choice, Deegan, is already eliminated. But you never even had a chance to support them in the race. That's not what Fair Vote told you would happen. But you filled out your entire ballot anyway, so your vote transfers to Ava instead, your third choice. In round 2, Ava has 5 votes, Bianca has 5, Cedric has 6, and Eli has 4. The next candidate to get eliminated is Eli. Guess Eli still wasn't quite popular enough. Hey, some of those Eli voters didn't get to support their second or even their third choice before they were eliminated. Their votes have slipped from their first choice straight to their fourth. Well, let's check out round 3. Ava has 7 votes, Bianca has 5, and Cedric has 8. Looks like Bianca is getting eliminated. Let's see who those Bianca votes will transfer to. Hold up, all 5 Bianca voters' entire ballots are scratched out. Bianca voters spent all this time researching every candidate and maxed out the available ranks on their ballots, but in the end, their votes were treated just like the old system where they only got to support one candidate on their ballot. And worse yet, now they have no say in the final round when the winner is actually decided. That doesn't seem fair. In the final round, we see that Ava has 7 votes and Cedric has 8 votes, making Cedric the majority winner. But wait, weren't there 20 voters? Yeah, 8 votes out of 20 is only 40%. Even if we eliminate Ava, Cedric still only gets 8 votes out of 20. But I thought ranked choice voting guaranteed a majority winner. Well, in ranked choice voting elections, they don't actually count all of the votes. Remember those Bianca voters? Their ballots were exhausted. They were thrown out. Ranked choice voting only uses the remaining ballots in the final tally, even if those other ballots were completely filled out. One person, one vote doesn't seem to apply to Bianca voters. Their votes literally weren't counted. Ranked choice voting only gives an illusion of majority because no voting method can guarantee a majority in a single election with more than 2 candidates. Check out part 3 for more analysis on how one tiny adjustment can unexpectedly change the outcome of this election. Let's go through a ranked choice voting election, part 3 of 3. Time to get crazy. We just saw that this ranked choice voting election did some weird things and ignored a lot of what voters marked on their ballots. With 20 voters who fully filled out their 5 ranked ballots, there's a total of 100 rankings. Let's see how many were actually used by counting up all the green circles. 27 marks out of 100. Only 27% of the voter preference data was ever used. The other 73% of ranks were never considered at all and never had any opportunities to help out those candidates. What's more, the candidate who was liked by everyone, Bianca, didn't even make it to the final round. Not only was Bianca the only candidate who was ranked on every single ballot, Bianca also beats both of the finalists head-to-head. Bianca was preferred over Ava on 13 ballots, and Bianca was preferred over Cedric on 12 ballots. Bianca should have won, not Cedric. And remember, you thought Cedric was the worst candidate. You didn't even rank Cedric. But what if I told you there's one small change you can make to your ballot that would make Cedric lose? What do you think it is? Take a guess. I bet you got it wrong. All you need to do is move Eli from 5th place to 3rd place. Sound crazy? How can that stop Cedric from winning? Well, let's tally it. Round 1 is the same as before. Ava has 4 votes, Bianca has 5, Cedric has 4, Deegan has 1, Eli has 4, Fabio has 1, and Gina has 1. We eliminate Deegan, Fabio, and Gina all at once. Your vote now transfers to Eli, who is your 3rd choice. Round 2 is already different. Ava has 4 votes, Bianca has 5, Cedric has 6, and Eli has 5. This time, Ava is eliminated early on. Guess Ava won't be a finalist in this election. Instead, those Ava votes transfer to Bianca. See where this is going? In round 3, Bianca has 9 votes, Cedric has 6, and Eli has 5. Eli is eliminated. 3 votes transfer to Bianca and 2 transfer to Cedric. In the 4th and final round, Bianca wins with 12 votes over Cedric's 8. Not only does Bianca win with 60% of votes from all voters, Bianca is the next choice for every Cedric voter. This outcome is drastically different from the first one, and all we had to do was move Eli from your 5th choice to your 3rd choice. What a chaotic voting method! These results are super unpredictable. In fact, if we move Eli above Ava on any ballot where Eli is below Ava, or if we move Eli above Cedric on any 2 ballots where Cedric is above Eli, then Bianca becomes the winner. In all of those altered cases, Bianca actually ends up getting ranked lower on those ballots. This crazy property where lowering a candidate's rank can actually help them is called a non-monotonicity, and ranked choice voting is one of the only deterministic single winner voting methods that is non-monotonic. Even our current terrible choose one only voting method is monotonic. Ranked choice voting can get even crazier than this, but thanks for watching this series. Please reach out to me if you have questions, and follow me if you want to learn about far better voting methods like star voting and approval voting. Let's go through an approval voting election. But first, what is approval voting? Approval voting is comically simple. It's nothing more than changing the instructions on the ballot from choose one to choose one or more. To see it in action, we'll run the same election with our current choose one voting, and then we'll run it again with approval voting. Let's use the same 7 candidates and 20 voters from our ranked choice voting elections. As a reminder, the candidates are Ava, Bianca, Cedric, Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, and we'll use the letters A through G to represent them. If you remember, your favorite candidates were Gina and Deegan, but they're not very popular. You don't want to waste your vote, so you vote for Ava instead, who you know is a frontrunner. The next 4 voters' favorite is Ava, so that's easy for them. The next 5 voters don't like Ava or Cedric, who are the 2 frontrunners. They all really like Bianca, but for some of them, Cedric is just too much of a threat, so 2 of them vote for Ava instead of Bianca. The next 4 voters love Cedric and have no intention of voting for anyone else. The next voter also likes Cedric, but they met Deegan once and think they're really cool. This voter really struggles with who to vote for, even though they've helped out Deegan on the campaign trail a few times. Ultimately, they compromise just like you did, and they end up voting for Cedric. The favorite of the next 4 voters is Eli. They campaigned hard and feel Eli is underrated. However, some of them don't feel Eli can win this, so they decide to vote for one of the frontrunners instead. Our last voter made a promise to her friend Fabio, but she just can't bring herself to let Ava win, so she votes for Cedric instead. Once we add up the votes, we see that Ava has 8 votes, Bianca has 3 votes, Cedric has 7, Deegan has 0, Eli has 2, Fabio has 0, and Gina has 0. Ava wins by a hair with 40% of the vote. That was a tense race. Let's try it with approval voting this time. Your favorites are Gina and Deegan, but you make sure to approve at least one frontrunner as well, Ava. The Ava voters obviously approve Ava, but a few also like Bianca. One even likes Eli. A few Bianca voters also like Eli. And hey look, Gina's getting some love too. Surprisingly, a few Cedric voters actually like some other candidates as well. You never would have guessed that based on their rhetoric, but sometimes the truth comes out when people can voice their opinions anonymously. Looks like that Deegan voter got to have their cake and eat it too. Eli voters rejoice in being able to support their favorite, but they're all sure to vote for a frontrunner as well. And our last voter gets to keep her promise to Fabio. Awesome! Let's add up these approvals. Ava has 5 approvals, Bianca has 12 approvals, Cedric has 9, Deegan has 3, Eli has 7, Fabio has 1, and Gina has 3. Bianca wins! Wow, that one simple change made all the difference. Not only are 60% of the voters happy with the winner, all of the other candidates got a more accurate portrayal of how much support they gained before the election. Even the losers. To see another great voting method that allows for even more expression, give me a follow and look out for my upcoming series on star voting. Let's go through a star voting election, part 1 of 2, explanation and the votes. What is star voting? I like to describe star voting as the ultimate culmination of modern voting science. It was invented in Oregon in 2014 as the unlikely outcome of a conference with the world's leading voting scientists attempting to determine the best voting method. STAR is an acronym for Score, Then Automatic Runoff, and that's how it works. On your star voting ballot, you score each candidate from 0 up to 5 stars, kind of like an Amazon rating. After adding up all of the scores for each candidate, the 2 candidates with the highest scores become finalists who move on to the automatic runoff round, where the finalist you scored higher gets your 1 full vote. Whichever finalist gets the most votes wins. For this election, we'll use the same 7 candidates and 20 voters we used in our ranked choice voting elections and our approval voting election. As a reminder, the candidates are Ava, Bianca, Cedric, Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, and we'll use the letters A through G to represent them. Here's your ballot. Gina and Deegan are your favorites, so you score them both 5 stars. Then you like Ava, followed by Bianca, with Eli and Fabio after that, leaving Cedric as your only 0-star candidate because he's really polarizing and you'll take anyone over Cedric. The first block of voters really likes Ava, but Bianca is a close second. Bianca has run a really inclusive campaign, so most voters seem to like her. After that, Ava voters disagree about Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, but they all dislike Cedric, who's been attacking Ava the entire campaign, so they all give him 0 stars. The next 5 voters think Bianca is the bee's knees. Bianca has brought creative solutions to the conversation that everyone can get on board with. She's even managed to escape attacks by befriending other candidates, including Cedric. Even though Bianca voters disagree about Deegan, Eli, Fabio, and Gina, they don't like how aggressive Cedric has been. And Ava lost strong support from Bianca voters when Ava aired attack ads in the final few weeks of the campaign. However, Bianca voters still see Cedric as the biggest threat, so they all give Ava 1 star in case it comes down to those 2 in the runoff. Cedric voters love Cedric and everything he has to say, including all those nasty things about Ava. For Cedric voters, Bianca is the only other candidate who hasn't degraded them, so Cedric voters give her some stars. They have mixed feelings about the rest, but they all agree that Ava doesn't deserve any stars at all. One Cedric voter likes Cedric just as much as the rest, but they met Deegan once and think that they're super cool, so they scored both Deegan and Cedric 5 stars. Beyond that, they mostly agree with other Cedric voters, especially about Ava. It turns out Eli is more popular than people realized and has gained a decent following. Eli voters stick together on their top pick, but deviate from each other after that. And then there's our last Cedric voter with a familiar story. They know Fabio personally, so this voter gave Fabio 5 stars and bumped Cedric down to 4, leaving Ava with 0, like the other Cedric voters. Check out part 2 to add up the scores and see who wins in the automatic runoff. Let's go through a star voting election, part 2 of 2. Score, then automatic runoff. We've already met the candidates and the voters, so let's use their ballots to tabulate the winner. It's pretty simple. The first step is to add up the scores for each candidate. Ava has a score of 30 with an average of 1.5 stars. Bianca has a score of 66 with an average of 3.3 stars. Cedric has a 34 with an average of 1.7. Deegan has 42 with an average of 2.1. Eli has 52 with an average of 2.6. Fabio has 36 with an average of 1.8. And Gina has 40 with an average of 2. Next, we'll take the 2 candidates with the highest scores and make them the finalists for the automatic runoff. In this case, that's Bianca and Eli. In the automatic runoff, we simply go back to the ballot ballots and see how many voters scored either finalist higher than the other. 15 voters preferred Bianca over Eli, 4 voters preferred Eli over Bianca, and 1 voter scored them both the same, so we count her vote as no preference. Bianca wins! Not only did Bianca have the highest score, showing she gained the most support, Bianca was also preferred over the second most supported candidate, Eli, by 75% of all voters. Wow, that was so much simpler than ranked choice voting and only a little more complex than approval voting. And hey, look at these scores. The 2 lowest scoring candidates are Ava and Cedric. It looks like star voting not only rewarded Bianca and Eli for running inclusive campaigns and building coalitions across the political spectrum, star voting actually punished candidates for being highly polarizing and aggressive. Just look at the scores for Ava and Cedric. They're almost all 5s, 1s, and 0s. Imagine how much different our politics would be if candidates actually had to try getting everyone to like them instead of just the bare minimum to beat their only opponent. In voting science, we call this building consensus. When majority is the focus, politicians have no concern about making half of the people angry. In fact, that makes their job easier. But when consensus is the focus, politicians and their ideas actually have to compete to be the most liked by the people. This is the foundational mental hurdle we all need to get over. Majority is not democratic. Democracy is about building consensus. And that starts with the way we pick the people in power. When we're only allowed to support a single candidate or idea at a time, like in choose one voting or ranked choice instant runoff voting, polarity wins because our voice is being restricted and minimized. But when we're allowed to fully support as many candidates as we like at the same time during the tally, like in approval voting or star voting, consensus wins because our voices are unrestrained, allowing us to maximize our collective power as the people. The best news is that we can change our voting methods throughout the US. It's already happened with approval voting in Fargo, North Dakota and St. Louis, Missouri. And star voting is on the precipice of being adopted in Eugene, Oregon. More initiatives for these reforms are starting up throughout the country, so check out starvoting.us and electology.org to learn more. If you like these kind of videos, give me a follow and share this with your friends. And if you have any questions, please reach out.